to be in close enough proximity to everybody have their finger or fingers, doesn't matter, underneath the stick, nobody over. One hand each works. And here Debbie and I will try to demonstrate. Now you are going to set the stick on the floor. Working together. Everybody touching the stick. Set the stick on the floor.
Are we going too fast down, Danielle? Your hand's up. Y'all's hand is up.
You guys aren't doing it right.
I'm a little unstable on my side.
Okay, now see, they're cheating.
You're cheating. Don't grab the stick. You have to keep everybody touching. Back up to here. You just start over. Cheat it. Cheat it. Yeah, I got it.
If the stick starts to slide, you can't catch it.
Let's go to the middle. Okay, well, we've got to have them both going down at the same time. And then we can make up the difference in the middle. So this was going down faster. Can y'all come down and stay even? That would be good. Or you come up and
I'll catch you in the middle of the film.
I want to get the film again.
So this end's going faster than this end. So y'all want to direct it? There we go. And now that end's going down faster than this end. Bring it down, bring it down. We need to keep it level.
And everybody touching.
No,
Everybody touch.
I'm afraid to fall out.
Mm-hmm. Usually it does go up.
Does it go up or down? We're going down.
Yeah, because the way it
Usually it
curves,
goes up
if
before it
you
goes down.
want
The floating stick. Team building activity.
So talk to me a little bit about this activity here that you just did. What was it easier than you thought, harder than you thought?
Harder.
Harder. It was harder.
I just wanted to have fun.
How many were singing and had a chorus line in the beginning? How many people had done it before? Was it easier the second time than the first? Was it easier to do it the second time than it was the first time you did it?
You had to keep your eye on other people's fingers and on the perpendicularness or lack thereof, or parallelness of the stick. Yeah.
What else was essential in being able to do that successfully? Teamwork. Yeah, and not just that we were all working hard, but what?
Working together.
We had to work together, which required cooperation, communication.
Yeah, I think some of us were
Patience.
Waiting on someone else.
some of us were giving direction and some of us were listening. We had to kind of determine kind of what role we felt most comfortable in.
Right. Not everybody could be giving directions, right? And not everybody could just be listening for directions. They'd have a balance. I had a group of student leaders do this a couple years ago, and it was really funny because they were yelling at each other. There were multiple people on a stick that were sure they had the right way to do it, and they were going to tell everybody else. And it doesn't work. We can't have everybody leading the same section, can we? What made it hard to do it?
Well, whenever one side went faster than the other, you would lose touch. I was in the middle, and so when one side went faster than the other side, I couldn't keep it was hard to keep my fingers on it because they were out of whack.
Right. That's a really great way of saying that, because as soon as you said, as one side's going faster, then it's easy to lose touch. That works with our teams, doesn't it? When we're working with the team and somebody's getting more information, if everybody doesn't have the same information, then it's hard to all work together. Yeah.
My perspective was from the same in the center of that, you would lose it, and then, so I don't know if we didn't even have a better pulse of which direction the stick was going. And so sometimes I might have compensated to save that end from actually sliding off and helped the person on that end, or the other had to, one side had to decide we're going to compensate this way or that way, redirection in order for the whole thing to line back up again. So decisions had to be made to go back from where we came from, or
Right.
and like regroup.
But somebody had to direct that. and sometimes it's when we're on a team and we know something's not working quite right, our natural inclination is to just work faster or harder. And that doesn't necessarily keep everything in balance, right? And so that can be a bit of a challenge sometimes.
I think too that in trying to, it was easy to lose track of what you were doing because you were watching everyone else. And so you didn't, you know, either your fingers were too high or too low and causing the imbalance because you were so focused on everyone else.
And I thought of the Einstein thing just now, you know, if we had planned before we just started doing it. Wouldn't that have been a good idea? Because we kind of said, maybe the ends don't need to be bringing it down, maybe the middle fingers bring it down, the ends are the savers, and the liner back uppers, and those are all technical, really technical terms to understand. But
Yeah, that's a good thought.
Debbie and I did it ourselves. We did it rather quickly, 2 of us. When I had done it at Ignite, there were several of us on a stick, and as I reflect on that, I think there's a whole lot more synchronization that has to happen when you have a larger group than if 2 people are planning something. So that's just interesting.
Which is a perfect segue into why do we need teams? Because it was really easy for us to lower that stick. And if it had been just me, boy, I could have done it like that. I wouldn't have even had to hesitate. So why bother? Why bother making teams? And I want you to tell me why bother. Yeah.
Relationship is always more important than the product.
Relationship is hugely important. It's also hugely irritating, right? Because what happens when you get in a relationship and you have to complete a task with somebody else?
It's a battle of the wills.
Well, and not necessarily because you're trying to, but people do things differently. And so now I'm going to have to adjust to your pace, or you're going to have to adjust to my pace, or I'm going to have to adjust to your linear thinking or your global thinking, and you're going to have to adjust to my linear thinking. And that's not comfortable. I have to learn something I'm not comfortable with. And so is it frustrating, Kathy?
No, I was just going, I didn't make sure you were finished.
No, go ahead.
I was just thinking, none of us are immortal, so, you know, it behooves us to build a team, so that we're passing on what has been poured into us that we've learned, so that we're pouring that into other people so that they can pour it into others. So it's one way to share the worth of knowledge.
Right. We're not immortal. And what happens if we don't work as team and then we do die or decide to do something else? What happens to the thing that we thought was really important here? It dies. It dies because who's going to do what we just did? Nobody, because it's too much, right? And even going off of what you said, Kathy, it's not just about when we stop doing what it is we're doing. It's about multiplication. You know, how many of us have 1 or 2 or 3 chapters in a small area, and how many of us could have a community that's large enough that could support 50 or 100 chapters? This is not some secret that, you know, we're going to try to protect and not let people know. We believe that it is important for all Christians to be equipped. And so if we're going to multiply, either we're going to all have chapters that are 150 people. Levi, how does that work to have 90 people in a chapter?
Doesn't work good.
Doesn't work well at all. They had 90 people in their chapter, and then his mom had the wisdom to train some other women, and they went into 3 or 4 chapters, 3 chapters.
3 counting ours.
And then, yeah, and then there have been some more. And I know that Kathy Hall has been involved, and Kathy Bolden have been involved in multiplications. It's important. It's important to do that. We can't do that without team. So that's one. So talk about it just in the context of chapters. What kinds of teams do we see? or could we see? Kathy?
Well, obviously we have the student leadership team, but we're going to start this year a parent leadership team
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And then you can always have like a hospitality team or a conference team or a special event team or.
So, same thing with our area, and about your area. But it was all about student leadership, student leadership, student leadership, and then all of a sudden we're going, wait a minute, we need invested parents in order to support this. So we really do need a parent. We really do need a parent team. So it's not just the sponsor or just the sponsor.
You
It's
just
the
made
sponsor.
the other statement about why teams investment.
Investment, yeah, we're investing in others.
Well,
And
no, I mean that when you are involved, you are invested.
Oh, yeah, so then
Buy-in.
you are engaged and you understand, right? You understand more why things are done. When we are part of a team, you know, we learn. We learn so much working together. I learn from the different people that I get to work with in ICC and in other places where I'm working because I learn from them. Even though it may irritate me sometimes that, oh, that's different than I would have done it, and now I've got to rethink the way to do it, I learned something from that, and there's a good thing involved in that. So we've got student leader teams, parent teams, tournament teams, conference teams. There can be more teams.
Area leadership?
Area leadership teams, yes, hallelujah for area leadership teams. I'm so excited. Each chapter started as a team. There was no one family, even if you had 15 kids, that wasn't going to be a chapter, right? And it wasn't just 2 families, it had to be 3 families. So we all start with the concept of team. And we want to keep multiplying that concept in all lots of different areas. Part of that is the community, and that goes back to what you were saying about the relationship, the community, the support. And then when one of us is down, somebody else can kind of step in. And we can serve people better. At the first conference that I did, there were just a couple of us adults that were engaged, and that meant we did everything, which meant that if somebody needed something from us, they had to kind of stand in line because we had to serve these people and these people and these people and these people. And so we can serve better when we have a team because there are more of us that can meet those needs. The saying that we've heard it already several times here. Actually, I'm gonna hold off on that for a second. So why don't we start teams?
They take time.
They take time. Why do they take time? Training. Trust. Yeah.
It's really hard to coordinate schedules and get a team together.
Yeah. It's hard to coordinate schedules. Sometimes that means going somewhere. Sometimes it means being on the phone or on Skype. I hate being on the phone.
Dependability.
Pardon me?
Dependability.
Dependability.
Trust.
Which can go both ways, right? It can mean, can I depend on them, and am I good enough for them to depend on me? Yeah.
We're controlling. Do we trust the team to do it the way we want it done?
That's right. That is so right.
Sorry.
There's fear.
So letting go.
There is fear in starting a team. So the fear of, can I trust people to do it well? Can I trust them to do it the way that I would do it?
Isn't necessary.
Can they trust me? Am I going to be good enough to lead this team?
Can I let go and let them fail
Can I let them fail?
with grace? I mean, and then
Can
offer
I
grace.
let them fail? Guess what? They're going to fail, and we're going to fail. It's going to happen. So can we let that happen? Think about it ahead of time, because not only can we let them fail, but it's important for them to fail, and it's important for us to fail. And that is really, really hard for everybody. It's hard when you're the person that has to go and say, you failed, It's hard when you're the person who failed and you get to go and say, I really messed up. I really messed up at my last tournament with 2 families. And I didn't catch on right away. And the sponsor said, oh, did you know? And I realized the implications of what I had done. And so I called the sponsor and apologized and said, this was my fault, this is what I thought, this is what I did, and I did it wrong. And then I called the mom and did the same thing, and then I called the student because it was the student that was impacted. And you know what I learned? I learned that that was really a good thing, because the sponsor said to me, wow, now I see that I need to go do that for my chapter. That was not my intent when I called her. I just messed up. I just did. But she saw it as modeling. And Mom said, oh, you know, it's not that big of a deal, but I sure appreciate that you cared enough to take the time. And the student was also gracious. And so going through that, when we fail, that does for our team, okay, when we fail and we do it well, then we follow up. We don't want to just keep failing. Then we can go and model. And when the people on our team fail, they can model and we can model how to walk that out. And that produces an atmosphere, a culture where people are willing to try because we value the trying, and because when they fail, and they're pretty sure they're going to, right? When they fail, they know that there's going to be good that can come out of it. And so that's a huge benefit of having a team, to be able to model that, even though that's really uncomfortable to walk through.
You know, my own children have commented how, you know, when their dad asks them, like it's my birthday or Mother's Day, and he'll say, what do you love about Mom the most? You know, they'll say, well, she asks for forgiveness when she does things wrong. And so I thought, you know, I need to create an atmosphere within my group too, within our leader team, student leader team, where they're ready to ask for forgiveness when they make mistakes. And so I said, Lord, give me an opportunity to get Mom. And so at the next meeting, it was at my house, and my husband came in, and we had had a day full of internet problems. And I was just like at my wit's end with how his needs had interrupted my, you know, our school day and all that kind of stuff. So he walks in just to ask, do we need the computer? And I kind of went, what do you need? You know, like that in front of my students. So the minute I did that, I thought, oh. And so I had to email them and say, listen, I was wrong to respond to Mr. WC in this way, and I need to ask your forgiveness. I've already asked his, and he's forgiven me, but I need to ask you to forgive me, because I should never have spoken to him in that tone. And so, you know, God will give you those opportunities.
Yes.
He will. Pray for him.
But I could see in their faces when I respond to him that way, their eyes were so big, like, don't cross Miss Hecka.
So those are some of the fears we have in starting chapters, or starting teams. One of them is that we don't always see ourselves as leaders. So the thing that we keep hearing here is, you know, we'll lead till the real leader shows up. And most of us, I think, feel that way. My son isn't quite in agreement with the idea that we're all leaders yet. Because we all influence, but we don't all lead. I disagree with him. You know, he can have a different opinion than I do, but I think we do lead. We lead by example. We do. It is influencing. It certainly is influencing, but we are having people follow us, and sometimes that's just scary, and so we don't want to. But I hope to convince you that it's okay to fail in that, because that in itself can be a good stepping stone. Why are people going to be afraid to join your team? Or why are you afraid to join other people's people?
They fear failure, and they fear judgment, not living up to other people's expectations. It's work, it's
Yeah.
schedules, you know, you're gonna ask me to do things, and I've got my schedule under control, and now I'm gonna have to open my schedule up to your schedule, kind of, you know, it's hectic, it's crazy, it's
Right.
all those things.
Right. Why else?
Well, just feeling overwhelmed with what we have so far, you know. How can I squeeze any more out of the turnip, you know?
That goes back to Teresa's point
Well,
about
so-
productivity
Yeah,
and rest.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
If they've seen the leader trying to do it all, right, they don't want to have to do that. So, you know, obviously, the creation of a team is so that nobody does have to do it all, but it's still hard, you know. And also there's this, you don't know exactly what you're gonna, you know, what the cost, you know, trying to count the cost. before you
Right.
join the team, Right, you don't always know what the full cost is gonna be. I had someone asking me the other day, so this area coordinator, you know, area team leader, you know, what do you have to do? And I said, and I kept thinking of it, and as we get done, I went, oh, and then there's, oh yeah, and then also you've got to, you know,
Well, and
there
if
was
you
more
def-
cost than I was even, you know, adding up. I'm like, yeah. Oh yeah, and you do have to go to another conference. And you didn't, you know,
Right.
so I don't know if it's somebody who's been asked in a different area. I don't even remember who it was, but.
It was me.
Oh, oh, that's right. Southeast needs an area coordinator, don't they? Yeah. No, so anyway, I just, you know, but that's the way the conversation went. What, didn't it, Catherine?
It did.
Basically?
I was like,
oh yeah,
wow.
by the way. Oh yeah, you do have to do that.
That's a catch-22 also,
Yeah.
because you want to be able to define the terms for whoever you're asking to join your team.
Mhm.
Yet if you define it so narrow, it can't grow, and
Right.
it doesn't leave room for the innovation.
Yeah.
Their
that we
creativity
need,
and what
and-
they're going to bring to the team.
Right, and ICC is very dynamic, so as you see, we change things, and so your role may change along with it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's hard to be building a team from this side, is to ask somebody to be on the area leadership team or on a team you're not really quite sure what all it's going to entail yet. And so that's a little bit,
What am I gonna have to do?
it's a little bit tricky.
And I've been convicted too, like she was talking about rest today, that I have to really minister from a place of rest. And so what that means is that if this is the ministry I feel called to, then I have to make capacity in my life for that ministry to happen, and not be taking from these different areas, but instead open my schedule, open my capacity by taking out things and making choices that, not in my leadership of this, but I'm talking about other things. So this year, you know, in the past, I've tried to fit ICC into my school day. Well, this year we're going to fit the school day into ICC because my students have made it. My personal students, my kids have made it a priority in their life. So I want to, you know, there's nothing that's wonderful, and I want to honor that and demonstrate that. Okay, well, we're going to have to make room for it, and so let's talk about how that works. You know.
Kimberly, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just thinking why people don't want to join teams, maybe because of fear of lack of respect or being treated without respect, or being treated disrespectfully, I guess.
Maybe you were talking about how it can be difficult when you don't know what the expectation is. I think that needs to be a level of expectation, even when you don't know what that particular role is, but a freedom. When you're defining something nebulous, if that person doesn't have the freedom to say no, then that becomes something that's difficult for them to say yes to. So this is the basic level of expectation, but how that's going to get accomplished, we have to leave largely up to you, because we don't have the groundwork for what this looks like.
One of the things you said there was really, really important, was giving free people the freedom to say no. And that will help with with that respect issue there. That's one of the things I've appreciated so much about ICC is I've gone through some times in my life where I couldn't complete what I had committed to. And I knew there were things that needed to be done, and I couldn't do it. And no one has ever made me feel bad. I make myself feel bad about that. But there has been support, and no one has ever said, no, that you absolutely have to do this. It doesn't matter what it costs you. And I've always had the freedom to say no. And modeling that to me gives me the freedom then to model that. And when you model that in your chapters, that gives people a lot of freedom to be able to think about the possibility.
Well, I thought of two things I'd like to ask. If y'all think that because it's a speech and debate group that people feel like, well, I'm not a subject matter expert on those things, therefore I can't be a leader. I'm not a subject matter expert on leadership. So what can I really do? You know, that seems like a qualification or something. And then how do we deal with that if you feel like that's what we're experiencing? And then the second thing is that, oh, now I lost that one. Did you left? So,
You know, and I would respond to that, say, with some of it is the way we communicate, and so even with, you know, what you want to make clear to your team, whether it's your chapter or your area, is the difference. I mean, I'm speaking specific to ICC now and building a team. We need to be careful, just like Teresa's example, what the words we use matter. We don't want to say it's a class. We don't want to say it's your speech credit. We want to say this is a communications and leadership chapter, because if we say it's a speech and debate organization, people are going to think, check that off my transcript and fulfill my English credit. If you say it's communications and leadership, already the words that you've chosen speak big picture. And I think that can help our families that we're asking to join our team to understand this is kind of an open organization, and it's going to be a process over time. It's a journey, not a task.
One of the things that I found significant in explaining to people when I say communications leadership, and remember 86% of communications is unspoken, and that changes their perspective quickly.
Interesting.
That might help my mom, who says English isn't her first language, so she doesn't want to volunteer. No, she's highly invested and highly involved, but she doesn't want to. She could be an assistant, you know.
Yeah.
She has valuable skills to be an assistant, but she says, but English isn't my first language, so I don't feel like I could, you know, fill in the blank, whatever.
Yeah.
But that might help if I use that. That's good. That was a good one.
Yeah, we have to wrap up. This has gone really quick, hasn't it?
Well, it started.
Did we start very late? Okay, so we're gonna go until 10:02. If you need to leave, go ahead. Go ahead, and we'll hear from you. And then I'd like to hear from, we've got 2 RSAs joining us for this session. And I'd like us to hear a little bit of their perspective if they have something to share. And you don't have to. You can say no. See how I model that? You can say no. But if you have something, we would love to hear your perspective. But we'll start back
Well,
here.
I was just going to say exactly what Kathy just said. We have several moms who English is not their first language. So stepping up into any type of thing, they feel like, whether it's the written in the book or it's speaking, they feel like they don't have that English language mastered. They can communicate, but they don't feel like experts. So they're very reluctant to, lead anything.
Yes.
I like the
Levi, do you have something you would like to share?
Yeah, somebody over here, I don't remember who it was, they were talking about how we're afraid to join teams for whatever reason that may be. One of the reasons sometimes I don't want to join teams is because we're afraid of not measuring up, to everybody else. And on a team, it seems that everyone should pull their weight, and that's not possible. So, balancing that, making sure that everyone's doing the best for their abilities, not just bringing it all equal or parts or
Thank you. It's good fun.
And then I guess I would add, this was So, not necessarily we're making a product, but a team has so much more creativity. And you think about, if you have all those different perspectives, you not only will learn from each other, but you will ultimately come up with a better result.
Excellent. That's an excellent point. Yes, thank you.
Just to pull those two together, that collaboration produces the best, the quote that Teresa gave us in the last session. And that, Levi, each person, I think if we can just say, you know, you have gifts. You know, we value you because you have gifts to bring to this team, and we need what you have to bring. That's the way we need to appeal to people to join our team, and that's kind of how I got it happening. You know, you already have these special gifts that you're bringing to this area, and we need you to just keep doing them, kind of in a more official capacity. So.
Oh, we're going to take one more, and then I'm going to wrap up. So go ahead.
One thing that Mary was saying earlier is really modeled by Christ. Every time he encountered someone, he invited them. He told them, you know, like the woman at the well, he invited her to drink of the water, but then he challenged her. And so every encounter is an invitation and a challenge. And I think if we can approach our encounters with people in that way and let the invitation be the compliment, the acknowledging of their gifting or whatever, that you'll see a different, rather than just immediately asking them to do something, I think we'll see a difference in the way people respond to us, perhaps.
Well, I'd like to wrap up with just a couple of thoughts. One is, this was a team. We did this as a team. And pulling together what we had in this room, you covered everything that we had on here and more, and we just asked questions. You get a lot out of a team. We had 2 RSAs here who made really insightful comments. So don't think that somebody has to have a certain age level to be able to contribute to the team, because you contributed to our team by being here. So ask the questions, get other people's opinions, and if you aren't sure how to start a team, sit down with a group of people and say, hey, I want to start a team. How, you know, what do you suggest? And you will be amazed at the amount of creativity and suggestions that you get in the midst of doing that. One thing that I want to stress is that I've heard this word expert a couple of times. That's not what this organization is about. We are not about finding the expert and bringing the expert in and having the expert do this or the expert do that, or I would not be here. Karen would not be here. Most of us would not be here up front. It is not how we work. We work through the collaboration and the teamwork and the creativity, and going through the P-cubed, R-cubed process really does improve the skill levels, addresses the character, and that's what we're after. And so keep that in mind when people are concerned that they're not the expert. Give them that freedom as well. That's not what we're about. But when we work together in community, following the Lord's lead, he does great things. So thank you all for being here.